If you're planning on traveling to Japan, there are several travel mistakes that you could make that'll cost you over $1,000 on a one-week trip. The first big mistake you can make is choosing the wrong airport when booking your tickets. Just this mistake could end up costing you $200. Most visitors to Japan fly into Tokyo, but they don't realize that Tokyo has two major airports, Narita and Haneda. Situated in Ota City, Haneda Airport is close to the center of Tokyo, and because of this proximity, it's also well connected to the Greater Tokyo Transit Network. As long as you catch the last train at 11:42 p.m., you can avoid the expense of taking a taxi to your hotel. Narita Airport is located a lot further from Tokyo, and as such, it's not connected to the Tokyo Transit Network. This means you have to rely on the special Narita Express train or express bus to get into Tokyo. These tickets are going to be a lot more expensive than a local train ticket. For example, the Narita Express train starts at 3,140 Japanese yen for a one-way trip into Tokyo. The bus takes longer to get into Tokyo, but it's also half the price at just 1,500 Japanese yen. Here's where it gets tricky though. The last train leaves Narita Airport at 9:40 p.m. and the last express bus leaves Narita Airport at 10:55 p.m. If you book a flight that arrives past this time, or your luggage just takes too long to be delivered, then you'll be forced to take a taxi, and those are notoriously expensive in Japan. For example, a late-night taxi ride from Narita Airport to Shinjuku could end up costing you over $200. That would very quickly negate any savings you made by booking a flight that arrived late in the evening. One of the most expensive mistakes you can make is visiting Japan at the wrong time. Booking at the most expensive time of year will cost you hundreds of dollars extra a day. Apart from the extra cost, your trip would also be plagued by huge crowds. Let's start with the most famous time to visit Japan, which is of course the spring. More specifically, during cherry blossom or sakura season. It usually starts around mid-March and ends around mid-May for the northernmost parts of Japan. There are entire websites dedicated to predicting and tracking cherry blossom season every year, so if this is your dream, then make sure you watch those sites very closely before booking. Cherry blossom season is undeniably beautiful, but beauty comes at an extremely steep cost. Every hotel will be charging a premium during this period, and if you wait too long to book, they'll also be completely full. For example, this hotel room in Kyoto only costs $33 for a night in July, but at the beginning of April, that exact same room is $323. Apart from the cost, if every hotel room is booked out, then the streets are also going to be absolutely jam-packed with people taking photos. Summer in Japan lasts from June until September, and it's both hot and humid. But it is also the cheapest time to travel, and you can get some excellent hotel deals. So, as long as you're okay looking all sweaty in your travel snapshots, then this is a great time to visit Japan. You'll also come across lots of traditional festivals during the summer months, and that does help compensate for the heat. With that being said, the summer is still a great time to travel to the northern parts of Japan, such as Hokkaido. Autumn in Japan starts in October and lasts until November. Early autumn is a great time to visit with really pleasant temperatures that are neither too hot nor too cold. If you're traveling around the time the leaves start to fall, you will be paying a premium once again though. Unfortunately, as we discovered ourselves, hotel prices do increase significantly in the fall, even before the fall colors start. Winter can be a great time to visit Japan, and it lasts from November until April. Since it is a very mountainous country, you'll find plenty of opportunities to engage in snow sports in almost every region. The best time to visit Japan really comes down to your budget and your heat tolerance. For budget travelers, the summer is undeniably going to get you the best deals. But if money is absolutely no object and you're an aspiring photographer, then cherry blossom season is incredibly beautiful. There's so much to see in Japan that it's really easy to miss some of the best spots. That's why we've created an interactive Google map and travel guide so that you can save time and money when planning your trip. Our map features over 100 curated locations with the best places to visit across Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto. Our personal tips are also included in each map pin. You can download the map directly into your Google Maps app to find the best spots at the click of a button. You'll find the link in the description, or you can scan the QR code on screen. Eating out in Japan is great fun, but it's also a great way to blast through your holiday budget in no time. Unless you're okay eating ramen for every single meal of the day, you'll quickly find that eating out in Japan gets very pricey. Since we travel full time, we have to keep a close eye on our budget. For us, breakfast was an easy place to save money and allowed us to get our day started quicker. A tub of yogurt only cost us $1 from the grocery store, and with a little bit of granola sprinkled on top, it was a filling and quick breakfast. For lunch, we would usually eat out and have our big meal of the day. This would typically be whatever dish was unique to the area. The big advantage of doing this is that you can take advantage of lunch deals or lunch sets, which are usually discounted. Those lunch deals can sometimes be up to 50% cheaper than the same meal in the evening. For dinner, the grocery store is actually a great place to eat like a local. Around rush hour, the aisles are full of commuters looking for an easy dinner, such as onigiri, bento, sushi, and other freshly made dishes. Depending on how late you're coming back, these items might even be discounted for the end of the day, making for an even cheaper but still tasty local dinner. If you're looking for a delicious and affordable meal, then you should definitely seek out the small mom and pop shops. They're not trendily decorated, in the fanciest locations, or even very well advertised, but that all translates into lower prices compared to restaurants in prime locations. One of our best meals in Japan was at a tiny restaurant in Yokohama. It was so small that we ended up walking by it 5 times just trying to find it. But the search was worth it, as we had the most delicious homemade Japanese curry ever for a very affordable price. Whenever you're eating out, I strongly recommend avoiding restaurants that have become popular on social media, TikTok, Instagram, etc. These are almost universally going to be a letdown, and for proof, you just need to ignore the hype and look at their reviews. I always recommend sorting by the lowest score first, just so you can make sure there's no reports of food poisoning or other deal breakers. In Japan, you shouldn't necessarily ignore a restaurant that only gets 4 stars on Google Maps. The Japanese have very exacting standards when it comes to food. And if it's not perfect, they are not shy about marking down a restaurant. So unless you're an expert Japanese chef, don't sweat the overall score so much, just make sure that there's no red flags. Obviously, restaurants in the tourist areas of the big cities are going to be the most expensive. But if you walk out of that neighborhood by just a few streets and try to see where the salary workers are going for lunch, then that can be a good way to find more affordable options. Just that simple trick could save you up to $10 per meal. That doesn't sound like much, but for a couple eating out twice a day, that's an easy savings of $280 on a 1-week trip. Since we're on the topic of food, let's briefly talk about convenience stores. If you need a snack during the day to keep you going, then the convenience stores are a great option, but they're not actually that great at value, so don't rely on them to make you full. The best solution is once again to find a grocery store or even some street food. On the topic of value, although the vending machines in Japan are awesome and plentiful, for example, we personally loved the vending machine that made freshly squeezed orange juice, the prices are usually going to be even higher than the convenience stores. Instead of relying on a 7-Eleven for your snacks, try to find a grocery store instead. You'll have a better selection and the prices will be cheaper. This next mistake is really easy to make, especially if it's your first time visiting Japan. We all know from watching House Hunters that location is everything. But what if the prime tourist areas such as Shinjuku aren't actually the best locations to stay in, and you're spending your holiday budget on the wrong thing? For our first night in Tokyo, we managed to find a great little hotel in Kawasaki, just a few stops from Haneda Airport. By sheer happenstance, that hotel ended up being really close to the famous Kawasaki Daishi Temple, which dates all the way back to 1128, and is known for its power to ward off evil, or yakuyoke in Japanese. It's a beautiful temple with a very long history. If we had opted to stay in one of the main tourist areas, we never would have discovered this fascinating temple, and we would have been forced to spend at least 30 to 50% more on accommodation. So, save your money and just stay a little bit further out of the city. You'll get to experience daily life in Japan, try local restaurants, and not have to fight the tourist crowds taking pictures of the same thing every day. If you have any questions about traveling Japan, let me know in the comments and I'll try to answer every single one. Paying more than you have to for Shinkansen tickets is a really easy mistake to make. There are a huge amount of websites advertising Shinkansen tickets to tourists. And in all fairness, a lot of them are easier to use than the official ticket platform. But all those websites are charging you a premium for that convenience. Instead, I recommend that you use the official Shinkansen ticket platform. That way you know that you're paying the official price for the ticket. The difference isn't always huge, but even if you just save $8, that still pays for a bowl of ramen. Apart from helping you save money, doing this also enables you to link your Suica card and Shinkansen ticket. This process is a little bit convoluted, but it is definitely worth doing because it means you don't have to stand in line to print out your ticket at the station. And there's almost always a huge queue of people trying to do that. You'll find a link to the official ticket site below so you can save money when booking your Shinkansen tickets. Speaking of tickets, if you've spent any time reading articles or watching videos on Japan, chances are you've come across the Japan Rail Pass. You can still buy the Rail Pass, but after they raised the price by 70%, it went from being a steal of a deal to no deal. Instead, just buy the individual segment tickets as you need them. Bigger might be better when it comes to houses or trucks, but if you're riding the rails with anything bigger than a carry-on bag, you need to book an oversized luggage seat. The oversized luggage seats are usually in the last row of each carriage, and they've left plenty of space for several large suitcases to fit behind the seats. Smaller bags can just be placed on the overhead shelf. The number of oversized luggage seats is limited when compared to normal seats. So if you are traveling with big suitcases, you should book your tickets and seats as soon as your dates are set. Not booking an oversized luggage seat could land you with a fine of 1,000 yen for each oversized bag. You would also be asked by the train staff to relocate your bags to one of the oversized areas and potentially move your seat as well. Obviously, this would be really disappointing if you had booked a seat specifically to get the famous Mount Fuji view. If you're anything like us and you suffer from analysis paralysis when booking, then this next thing will put a smile in your face and a pep in your step. The Shinkansen prices are fixed. So, even if you wait until 1 a.m. on the day of departure to make a decision, you won't end up paying more. The one caveat to this is that the optimal times might be sold out if you wait till the last minute. And this is obviously most likely to be the case on popular routes such as between Tokyo and Osaka. Rules in Japan are most definitely not made to be broken, and eating and drinking on a train in Japan will usually be met with horror. If you're anything like my wife and you need to drink water constantly, you'll be happy to know that eating and drinking is allowed on the Shinkansen, since they're designed for longer journeys. So make sure you stock up on all your favorite snacks and food at the grocery store before you leave. Or you can also stock up at the numerous convenience stores in the station before you board your train. Shinkansen tickets are only valid for the chosen departure time, so you do not want to miss your train. The big Shinkansen stations, notably the ones in Tokyo and Osaka, are huge underground mazes that are really easy to get lost in, even if you're sure that you followed all the right signs. To avoid missing your train, make sure you arrive at the station at least 2 hours before the departure time on your ticket. A big hotel mistake is thinking that the room sizes are going to be the same as you're used to from back home. If you're the type of person that likes to pack everything except the kitchen sink, then you could find yourself struggling to fit your luggage into a hotel room that's the size of an American ensuite bathroom. Space is tight in the major Japanese cities, so hotels have to utilize every square foot of space as efficiently as possible. If you're a heavy packer, you will absolutely struggle to find space for yourself and or your luggage. But if you've kept your suitcases to a minimum, you'll quickly appreciate that although tiny, the rooms have everything you need. You'll usually find a stainless steel kettle in your room so you can make tea or instant noodles, and there'll usually be a shared microwave as well in case you feel like nuking your 7-Eleven haul. A great alternative to hotels is taking a look at what's available on Airbnb. Most of these listings are actually what could be considered hotels and are usually professionally run. They just use Airbnb as a marketing platform so that it's easier for people to find them. For example, we stayed at an excellent Airbnb in Osaka where the whole building consisted of serviced apartments. This meant we had tons of space for our huge suitcases and we got to experience a traditional Japanese apartment layout. Japan is also famous for their capsule hotels, but because they've become so popular for their novelty, they have in most cases become a really bad value. Often, you can get a proper hotel room for just a few more dollars. When you're searching for hotels, you'll also find a ton of Japanese hotels that are catering to local business travelers. These are typically fairly no frills, but they get all the basics right. If you want to find the best hotel deals, I've recently discovered that Google Maps is an excellent tool for hotel hunting. Just zoom in on the city that you're looking at. Select hotels at the top of the window. In this view, you can now filter for dates, pricing, amenities, and review score. I actually found that the pricing in Google Maps was better than the pricing I got when logging into the different booking sites, such as Agoda, Priceline, Booking.com. Before you finalize your booking, it's worth performing the same search on both desktop and mobile, as the pricing can vary between the two. Just be aware that the hotel filters in Google Maps only seem to work if you're based in the US. If you don't live in the US or you're already traveling, you can just use a VPN. Before you book, it's also worth clearing your cookies or using a private browser and then setting your VPN to Japan just in case the domestic market gets better pricing. Since we're talking about hotel booking platforms, let's talk about hotel reviews on those sites. In most Asian countries, a 9 out of 10 review on a hotel booking site is about as convincing as Mel Gibson's Scottish accent. Although the discrepancy isn't as pronounced in Japan, I still recommend taking a look at the hotel reviews on Google Maps before booking. Just be aware that the Japanese can be incredibly harsh in their scoring. One review I read for a hotel we stayed at gave it a 1-star rating because the front desk didn't wish them a pleasant day when they left for the day, even though they weren't checking out. So, a 3 or a 4-star rated hotel in Japan could very well be a 5-star property if your standards are a little bit less exacting. Just make sure you sort the reviews by the lowest first and see what issues people are having. If you can live with those issues, then go ahead and book. If you're anything like us, you like to leave room for spontaneity on your trips. But that's not a great idea in Japan. We planned our trip to Japan at the very last minute when a great flight with United Miles opened up. But this meant that we were booking hotels just a few days before our arrival. Not only did we have a lot less choice, but we also ended up paying more than we needed to. There's another big mistake that you could make before you even arrive in Japan, and I like to call this mistake the Shinkansen trap. But before we get into that, make sure you subscribe for more no-nonsense travel tips that'll help you plan your own grand adventure. If you're going to fly all the way to Japan, then surely you should try and see as many of the famous sites as possible, right? Because the bullet train is so iconic and will take you almost everywhere with high-speed Japanese efficiency, it makes it really easy to add as many stops as possible into your 2-week vacation. The most popular 2-week vacation itinerary for Japan that you'll see across multiple tour companies is known as the Golden Route. It covers the major Japanese cities of Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, and Hiroshima, along with the big nature spots of Hakone, Mount Fuji, and Nara. Trying to squeeze 7 destinations into a 14-day trip is a recipe for burnout. Apart from not leaving you enough time to really explore and appreciate each stop, completing the Golden Route in 14 days would also lead to you spending almost a third of your trip just traveling between destinations on the Shinkansen. But it's not just burnout that you need to worry about. Shinkansen tickets are not cheap, and you'll be spending a big chunk of your vacation budget just on train travel. Regardless of how much time you have for your trip to Japan, make sure you slow down and enjoy each stop by spending at least 5 days in each destination. Slowing down would also easily save you hundreds of dollars in Shinkansen tickets. But apart from saving money, there is also a joy in developing a small routine and being able to discover your favorite places in each destination. Buying brand new electronics before you leave on your trip to Japan could end up being a pricey mistake. Not everything in Japan is a bargain, but it's definitely worth doing some comparison shopping before you leave. For example, iPhones can be cheaper in Japan than they are in the US, especially if you buy from a store that participates in the tax-back program, as that enables you to get back the 10% VAT that Japan charges on most goods. Let me give you some real numbers. An iPhone 17 costs $855 in the US, including a 7% sales tax. In Japan, that same iPhone costs $815, including tax. But Once you get the 10% tax back in Japan, your cost drops to only $733. That's a solid savings of $122, especially if you're planning on buying a new phone anyway. If you're traveling to Japan from Europe or Canada, the savings are even bigger, and you should definitely hold off on any big electronics purchases until you get to Japan. Aside from big ticket items, even little things can actually be a really good value. We were wandering around the Takashimaya department store in Osaka and discovered a set of Japanese-made stainless steel bowls that were perfect as feeding bowls for dogs and cost a fraction of what they would anywhere else. Now that you know how to save money on electronics, let's talk about how you can save money and time by flying domestically in Japan. Japan Airlines has a special discount program called the Japan Explorer Pass that's exclusive to foreign visitors. So long as you're not a resident of Japan and have an international ticket into and out of Japan, you can take advantage of some really good deals on domestic flights. Whether flying makes more sense than taking the Shinkansen is a bit of a personal preference. If you're a huge train nerd, you might be happy spending your whole vacation traveling across the Japanese countryside in the iconic bullet trains. But for most of us, I would say that if a train journey takes 4 hours or more, then I'd rather take a flight that only takes an hour and a half. Of course, your total travel time will be a bit more than that because you still have to leave time for security and extra time to travel to the airport. But don't forget, you also need to leave extra time for the Shinkansen if you're leaving from one of the massively confusing stations like Osaka and Tokyo. Not only will flying be faster on those longer train routes, but it'll often be cheaper than the Shinkansen as well, especially if you take advantage of the Japan Explorer Pass. For example, Hiroshima to Tokyo is 4 hours on the Shinkansen if you opt for the Nozomi train, and costs about 16,380 yen or $103 on the official site. In contrast, a plane ticket using the Japan Explorer Pass is only $74, and the flight is just 1 hour and 20 minutes. Another way to save money on flights is to use this insider tip that I used all the time when working as a travel agent. Let's say you want to start your trip in Tokyo and end in Osaka. Instead of booking a round-trip flight to Tokyo or Osaka, you can book what is called an open-jaw ticket. Essentially, you book your incoming flight into Tokyo and then your return flight out of Osaka. It's still one combined ticket, not two one-way tickets, but it saves you the cost of traveling back to the city that you arrived in. These cities don't even have to be in the same country, so if you found a cheap ticket from Tokyo to Seoul, for example, you could book your long-haul ticket into Tokyo and out of Seoul. Now let's talk about some basics for traveling. These are smaller things that'll make your trip easier and also save you some money. Not having a local data plan for your phone is a big mistake. But don't fall for the slick advertising paid for by the big eSIM companies, as you could end up paying almost 50% more for the same amount of data. Although most major cell carriers do offer roaming packages, they're usually a really bad value. You might also be tempted by one of the numerous eSIM providers that you've seen advertised on social media. These providers are convenient, but apart from a huge marketing budget, they're just taking local plans and then marking them up by a lot. So, I always suggest that you skip the middleman. For Japan, the best deal I found for an eSIM was actually via Klook. For $23.50, I was able to get an eSIM with 10 days of truly unlimited data. That was a much better deal than anything I could find at the airport kiosks selling SIM cards. The great thing about an eSIM is that you can install it on your phone ahead of time, but only activate it once you land using the airport Wi-Fi. Even if you forget to buy an eSIM ahead of time, you can still use the airport Wi-Fi to find a good deal, since you can install the eSIMs immediately. Another easy mistake to make is not having a way to withdraw local currency. If you're in the big cities, almost all stores will accept credit cards, even restaurants. But as soon as you get into the countryside, or if you're shopping at small stores, then you'll need to have some cash on hand. How much cash you end up needing obviously depends on your itinerary and spending habits, but I would probably recommend taking out 20,000 Japanese yen to start with if you're traveling as a couple. The best place to get cash out is at the 7-Eleven ATMs, since they don't charge any fees for foreign cards. Unless you want to spend your vacation lining up at the ticket machines and trying to decipher all the options, then getting an IC card is an absolute must-have for taking public transit in Japan. What started as a physical card has now moved into the digital age. With just a few steps, you can add an IC card like Suica to your Apple Wallet and use your phone like you would a physical card to pay for public transit. Unfortunately, if you're an Android user, you won't be able to use the digital Suica card, and you'll have to purchase a physical Suica card at the station and then top it up at the ticket machines or ticket counters. If you've ever traveled in the UK, you can think of Suica as an Oyster card. You top up the card with however much money you think you'll need, and then just tap your phone or card on the turnstile when you enter and exit the station. If you've installed Suica on your phone, you can top it up instantly using Apple Pay. Don't worry too much about getting the amount you top up to be exactly right. If you're coming to the end of your time in Japan and you still have money left over on your Suica card, you can use the balance at all the major convenience stores as well as a few fast food places as well. If the balance is too high to spend, then you can get the balance refunded at a ticket office, although they do charge a processing fee for that. This only applies to the regular Suica card. If you buy the Suica Welcome Pass, they are completely non-refundable, so don't put too much money on them at a time. The Suica card works in both Osaka and Tokyo, along with some of the other major cities and towns. But if you're planning on traveling rurally, you may find that some of the small bus companies only accept cash. You also can't use your Suica card to pay for your Shinkansen ticket, but with a little bit of effort, you can actually link your Shinkansen ticket to your Suica card. The big benefit of doing this is that you don't have to print out your ticket at the station. When we took the Shinkansen from Osaka to Tokyo, we linked our tickets to our Suica card, and that enabled us to skip the long lines at the ticket printing machines. There's a link below that goes through how to do this in more detail. Even if you're a bit of a grandpa with technology like myself, I still recommend that you download Google Maps onto your phone to help you navigate the transit system. Relying on the maps at the station will just leave you cross-eyed. Luckily, Google Maps is simple to use and pretty good at planning routes using public transit, especially in the big cities. If you're staying in an area for longer, you might figure out a couple of tricks to get you to your destination a little bit faster, but in general, you can rely on Google Maps to help you navigate the huge public transit networks of Japan. Since you're visiting Japan for a vacation, there's no need to subject yourself to the torture of being packed tighter than a can of sardines into rush hour trains. If you're traveling with luggage, you should especially try to avoid rush hour, as there will definitely be no space for your suitcases. In the major cities, the morning rush hour is normally on weekdays between 7:30 to 9:30 a.m., with the earlier times being the busiest. Later in the day, you should avoid traveling between 5 to 7 p.m., as that's when the trains will be most crowded. It's a good thing that public transport is so efficient in Japan, as taxis can get really expensive. Unlike a lot of other countries, Japanese taxi drivers are not going to scam you. The vehicle will be in pristine condition and the driver unfailingly polite. But they are eye-wateringly expensive. Ride-sharing apps like Uber, Grab, and Go are available in Japan, but they're just connecting you to a taxi with an estimated price, so there's really no benefit to using them. The good news is that even if you're a solo female traveler, you shouldn't have to rely on taxis when walking back to your hotel at night, as Japan is generally a very safe country. The best card to use for taking out cash depends on where you live. If you live in the US, then Charles Schwab is a great option. They have no foreign transaction fees, and they also refund foreign ATM fees, which is a huge help. If you don't live in the US or you can't get a Charles Schwab card, then I would recommend opening a Wise account, which is what we use when traveling. Wise is a fintech company that allows you to hold multiple currencies and also gives you the best exchange rates. The biggest downside to Wise is that you can only withdraw $200 from ATMs each month before you get charged a fee of 1.75% on any amount above that. However, if you're traveling as a couple, my top tip is to open a Wise account in both of your names. Transfers between Wise accounts are free and instant, so you don't even have to keep money in both accounts. By using your second Wise account, you're able to withdraw a combined $400 per calendar month without any extra fees. If you want the ultimate freedom to explore the less touristy side of Japan without spending hours on public transit, then not renting a car would be a big mistake. Most tourists don't end up renting a car when traveling to Japan. After all, why would you bother driving when the Shinkansen can take you almost anywhere you want to go at 300k an hour? But all those people are missing out on a great experience. If you want to get into the heart of Japan and see the rural villages where time has seemingly stood still, then you have to leave the Shinkansen behind. These villages might have a bus service, but because they're so small, it won't run very often and the route will be quite limited. This leaves you with two choices. You can either spend a lot of your vacation walking along the road to get to your destination, or you can rent a car and have the freedom to explore any way you want on your own schedule. If you discover a remote temple on Google Maps, you can go visit it without needing to make a detailed plan involving a train, bus, and hitchhiking. Obviously, if you're planning on visiting the major cities such as Osaka, Tokyo, and Kyoto, you should definitely not rent a car. The roads are narrow, traffic is dense, and parking is scarce in those cities. Especially when you consider the excellent transit options available, a car would just be a hindrance. If you still want to see the big cities and also the less explored side of Japan, then you could consider splitting a trip into two categories. You can start by exploring the cities and then finish your trip with a road trip through Japan. To make sure you have the best spots to visit in Osaka, Kyoto, and Tokyo right at your fingertips and save hours of research, you can purchase our custom travel map and guide for Japan in the link below. If you do want to rent a car in Japan, make sure you get an international driving permit or IDP from your home country before you leave. In the US, it's issued through the AAA, and in Canada, it's the CAA. It's a document that translates your driver's license into several languages so that the local police know that you're legally allowed to drive the vehicle that you've rented. Last but not least, you need to be aware that Japan drives on the left side of the road. As long as you keep saying stay left in your head, you'll get the hang of it within a few days. Another great tip that'll help you save time and money on your next trip is to watch our latest video here.